Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gavinsky's Tutorials. Today I'm looking at MidiMixer by 4Pockets, and this is an app designed for AUM users to address a couple of features that have been missing in AUM that people have been really looking forward to having for a while. And who knows, maybe at some point in the future these kind of things will be integrated into AUM itself, but it's likely to take a very long time. Now, the video today is going to be short. I haven't had this for very long. I understand how to use it, but I haven't had much chance to make many different kinds of examples with it. So it's going to be a quick overview. Now, before I go any further, let me mention I've got 3 copies of this to give away to subscribers to the channel. All the details of what you need to do to win are in the pinned comment at the top of the YouTube comment section. And the winners will be announced 2 days from now. Okay, good luck, everyone. Now, let's look. First of all, I've got a session where I'm using this. So let's just observe these sliders here. So I just pressed play on the transport. And now you're going to see eventually these sliders just starting to magically move. Just pay attention to these ones, number 3, 4, and 5. This is a little track that I made yesterday with making some loops in Gauss. And I can't show you in this video how I made those loops because they're using an app that hasn't come out yet. When that app comes out, I will go into this in more detail. Okay, I'll just take those down. So you get the idea there. Basically, one of the most useful things you can do in this is record automation for sliders. So let me take a look in more detail at how the app is organized and what's going on. So I'm showing you here what you'll see when you open MidiMixer in the standalone app. It's always a good habit to open an app standalone, by the way, when you first install a new app. But in this case, it's even more useful because you need to go into the standalone if you want to get the AUM session templates. So what you do is click on the AUM session templates, and then you'll see a couple of templates here. And then when you click on these, it will open that file in AUM. So one of them is an 8-channel setup and one of them is a 12-channel setup. I'm not going to click that now because if I do, it will cut off my microphone because this microphone is in an AUM session. But that's the first thing you should do when you get this app. Open it standalone and open both these projects in AUM. Then you can save them in AUM as templates. And then when you make projects in them, rename those projects so you don't overwrite these. So now we're in an example of what the templates will look like when you open them up in AUM. This is a 12-channel template. Now, why use a template? Well, it's because if we look here at these channels, the MIDI has already been assigned to the CCs that MidiMixer is going to send into it. So you can make your own sessions in AUM, or you can take a session that you've already made. You can then make these changes yourself, but it will be time consuming. So it's better to use the templates if you're intending to use this app. Okay, so let's look at what this can do basically. So if we slide back down here, you can see we've got channel 1 in view here. And if I move the slider here, you can see that that slider is moving. So that's one of the most basic functionalities of this. One thing that people have complained about is that in AUM, if you're on a smaller iPad, you can only see 4 channels at a time. I'm on an iPad Pro with the large screen here. I can see 5 at a time, but it's still not a lot if you're working in a big session. So people have wanted a more concentrated mixer view. So even before anything else, it's giving you that. You know, you have these faders here. One thing I will say though is the faders, to be honest, are a little bit small for me. I would like to have a bigger view of these, where you could, if these were longer, you could get more accuracy in your sliding. Now, it's not just for automating volume changes or sliding these volume knobs here. We also have pan set up, right? So you can see here when I move this, the pan is moving here. And we can also mute, see here, mute has come on, mute and solo a channel. So even just this is very useful. Now, one thing I'll mention is if I long press here, I can change the name of this. Let's say I have drums here, for example. I just call it drums and it'll get that name. So that's also something to be aware of. Now, if we look over here, we have a few things. So this button, we have a bunch of different options here. Reset mixer. So reset mixer will set these faders back to their default levels. Clear all snapshots, clear all up automation. We'll talk about that in a minute. Initialize mixer. This will get rid of any changes you've made and put it back into the initial state that it is when you open it up for the first time. The help here, by the way, you have a manual. I would like it if the manual remembered the last position it was red. It doesn't. So every time you go back in, you have to go back to the place that you were last at. So I would like to see that as one change. The other thing that I skipped over here, mixer channels, I'll talk about that later. Now let's look at snapshots. So snapshots is one way that we can set up automation. So here we have this little camera thing. If we want to set a snapshot, now a snapshot is just a picture of what the faders look like at any given time. That'll become clearer in a second. If I want to set up a snapshot, I press this camera button, but it's good to pay attention to what's going on down here first. This will control the speed that the faders change between snapshots. So either that can be an instant transition or a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 second transition. Personally, I would like to see ability to make longer fades. I would like to have text entry here or something, and you can type an exact value of how long you want your fade to be. For ambient stuff, 5 seconds fade might not be long enough, but don't worry, there are other ways you can do longer fades, and I'll look at that later in the video. So for now, let's just take a 2-second fade, for example. So I'll press this, and I'll press, I'll take this down. I'll take 1, 2, and 3 down. Let's pretend I'm just working with a session with 3 instruments. So take those down, and I'll press S1. So I got to press the camera again. I waited too long there. Okay, record snapshot. Yes. Okay, so now anytime I press this S1 button, it's going to jump to these settings. So what I can do now is I can change, for example, this fader here, and let's put this one here. And then I go to the camera and I press snapshot 2. Yes. Okay, and so now watch what will happen when I press snapshot 1. It'll change back to snapshot 1, but it will take the 2 seconds that I set. And if I click S2, it's going to change to this, and it's going to take 2 seconds. One thing you should pay attention to is you can change the fade between things. So let's say, for example, I want to make another snapshot, let's say like this. And let's say I want that to be instant. Okay, so I change it to instant first, and then I click on the camera, and I'll click snapshot 3, yes. Okay, so now let's see what happens. Click on snapshot 1, takes 2 seconds. Snapshot 2, that'll take 2 seconds. Snapshot 3, did you see that? That one was immediate. Okay, now, in this example, I did this for the volume faders, but anything that you change here in these knobs, the pan, the mute, and the solo, these will all be saved in the snapshot. So that's really cool. That's really cool. So you can use this during your sessions, just when you're doing live jamming, to jump from one thing to another, or to gradually fade from one thing to another. Or you can use it also when you're recording automation, and we'll look at recording soon. One more thing I want to mention here is that we can do a fader lock. So let me take this down here, for example. Now, normally if I move this fader, only this fader is going to move. But see what happens when I press fader lock. You see now everything is moving together. So this is pretty handy as well. Okay, let's look at recording. So I'm back in the Gauss session that we looked at the beginning of the video. And what I did was I just cleared everything by pressing Initialize Mixer. Reset mixer and channel names to default settings. This also clears any automation snapshots. So I did that. I won't do it again because it'll put all the volume levels up again. Okay, now we're going to look at how to record. So we'll look at one way how to record, which is the manual way. So first I'm going to see in AUM, I want to automate channel 2, 3, and 4. Those are the channels which have Gauss instances on them. So what I do here is in channel 2, 3, and 4, I press these little record buttons. 2, 3, 4. I also go over here and I press this master record button. Let me press pause there. Hang on. Put that back to 0. Okay, so the transport was running, so I want to undo these. So I'm just going to clear them by long pressing on them. I want to clear all automation, yes. Okay, let's start again. Right, so I press record. I press master record. Okay, now I'm going to start the transport. Okay, so up at the top left in AUM, I press this play button. And now I'm going to record fading these in. And I'll do this a bit faster than I'd like to. It's just for demonstration purposes. And now I'll just fade them out again. Again, just for demonstration. And I'll press pause. Okay, so you can see now the master record button is off. That's turned off automatically. And now these 3 green play buttons are lit up. That means there's automation recorded in these channels. And so now listen and watch what happens. I'm just going to press rewind just in case. I'm going to press play. And if everything's gone right, we should see and hear these sliders moving, right? See? So this is great now because basically, I mean, you can set up much more interesting and complex songs in AUM for jamming and stuff. Now, I'm going to just take these down manually. I'll take them down manually. Now, according to the manual and the video, if I press play here, this should clear all automation. Yes, and it is doing that, see? So those play buttons have all gone. If I long press record here, by the way, all of these channels will be armed for recording. Again, if I long press it, they'll all be turned off. So that's very convenient. You don't have to go through and press record for each channel if you don't want to. So again, I've turned on the play for those. I long press this. That is now turned off. So if I go back and press play on the transport, this time nothing will happen. I'd have to press play again here. Long press, sorry. Okay, and now it's automating again. So that's one way we can do automation. Now again, I just did the volume faders there. I didn't bother with the panning and so on, or mute or anything like that. Now let's open the window up a bit larger. So here we get another thing. So this is another way we can record automation. Now up here at the top, if replace is pressed, if I record new things here by drawing lines in, that will replace the previous automation I did. If I have merge, then it will actually merge those. Not really quite sure, haven't had a chance to experiment what that's going to be like in practice. But for now, I'm just going to press replace. I'm going to come down here, and first thing I'm going to do is press paint, and I'm going to press rewind. Let's bring this back, I don't know, manually. Now, one thing you can do is you can do pinching to zoom in and out. So here we're seeing quite a lot of bars, right? These numbers represent bars. So see here, I can just draw these curves. If I want to erase those, I just get this erase and go over it, and there it's erased. Now that was for channel 1, so I need to draw things in separately for different channels. Now remember, in this case, I want to do channel 2, 3, and 4. So you see here, channel 2, this is the automation that I recorded earlier. So again, I could just erase that, for example. Now, let's look at the line tool. So a line will allow me to draw a line from one point to another. So like this, for example. Again, if I go to erase, I can erase that. Okay. Now let's look at another way we can do things. There's a stamp button here. So let's look at this stamp button. Let's say, for example, okay, I'm back at the start. I take these down. Oh, that one doesn't matter. Take these down, and I'm going to press stamp. Which mixer settings do you want to stamp? Selected component, record armed channels, all channels. Let's just choose all channels. So this has stamped that. Now, let's say I run the transport. Let me bring down this volume fader over here. I'm going to run the transport. I'm going to run it with the metronome. Okay, now let's say I get to this point, and let's say I want to stamp a different configuration of sliders here. I'll change these, and I'll press stamp. I'll press rewind here. Now you can see that it has stamped that setting at this point. So that's what the stamp button does. Now, another thing you can do is you can use the clipboard. So select a range that you want to copy. Select a range. You just go to the clipboard, and you have a bunch of choices. Either you can cut that, you can copy it, you can paste it. You can clear selection, you can paste value. Now, let's look at this, how this thing works here. So if I drag on the right, that will lengthen it. I can also drag from the left to shorten it on the left side. So that's one way that works. Another way this works is if you press in the middle, it'll actually drag the whole length along. So that can be useful for copy and pasting. What you can do is you can set up a pattern here, for example. Let's say in the first 16 bars. I won't illustrate it because I'm going to keep this short. Set up a pattern here, and then all you need to do is just select those bars, and copy, and then drag this over here, and then press paste, and whatever you've copied here will be pasted in there. So that's pretty useful. Okay, something else that is really cool is that instead of just automating the faders and so on and the panning and stuff like that, we can automate any parameter in any app. Let's say, for example, I have something that I want to automate on this equalizer. Now I'm using a new version of AUM. It's a beta version, but you can see it's got easier access to the parameters, so that's brilliant. So let's say I wanted to control, okay, let's just take anything. I'm not going to bother letting you actually hear it, what it does, but I'll just show you. Let's say I wanted to change this parameter, for example. What I would do is I would go in here and set channel 2, or whatever channel I want. I'll just take, for example, channel 2 and CC20. So I'd put those in there. And if I go back to MidiMixer, here on channel 2, I'd select this user tab, and then I could draw in a line, for example. And then when the transport is running, this would actually automate that parameter in that app. So that's a really great feature. So this was just a very, very quick look at this, but I think you're going to be seeing me using this a lot more in my videos in the future, so I'll give you more tips and tricks as I go along. I'll definitely be using it in sessions. So yeah, this is an app that you're definitely going to see me using quite a lot. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what else gets added, because if I remember from my experience with MIDI Strummer, for example, Paul brought out a series of pretty incredible updates in the first couple of weeks after that was out. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops. One thing I'd like you to do, if you're an experienced AUM user, maybe one thing is you can write in the comments what your ideas of what this app can do would be. What would you like to see added to this? Is there anything important that you think has been left out? What's your favorite thing about it? Stuff like that. Be very interesting to hear. So everyone, hope you found this useful. Please do remember to give it a thumbs up, etc., etc. if you did find it useful. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And good luck with winning those codes, everyone. Again, the details are in the pinned comment at the top of the YouTube comments section. If you missed the giveaway because you're watching this more than 2 days after it was released, then you can subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on future videos. All right, take it easy, folks. See ya.